While we mourn the loss of those two, but like I said before we ran the show, their work lives on. Now, MM is still with us, thankfully, right? Emma, I prefer to call you MM. It's like one single name. It's nice to have you on set again.
Nice to be here.
Thank you for coming, really, because you just finished one powerful show just a couple of days before we recorded this. The show with Mike Aremu and India Irie and all of that. How did that go, though?
It went well. I hear it was a great production. I was busy working, so I couldn't get as much feedback as I wanted, but people seemed happy.
But what happens, though, is the fact that we see these things, but we don't know what it takes to do them.
A lot of planning, a lot of ruckus behind the scenes, but it all turns out well. It's like cooking. The kitchen is in a mess, but when you see the food, it's beautiful, it tastes well.
But, you know, how do you feel being, you know, you had 3 panelists on the set that day? OJB, No More Loss, now it's just you sitting here. You know, when we say we're going to invite, say, MM is the only one, last woman standing.
I should ask you, you selected us, what was the plan?
Yeah, what was the plan? Maybe you're next to go. We'll all die someday.
Of course.
But it's better for us to have lived a life that is well. How would you describe those two, looking back now?
I mean, they're 2 people that I had the pleasure and honor of meeting, and I'm sure their legacy will live on. I think that's the most important thing about life. It's what you leave behind. Ensure that you have impacted lives. You know, you have brought some kind of positive impact to people. And OJB did that, No More Loss did that, gave us fantastic music, have great families, and I don't think they'll be forgotten anytime soon.
At least not in a hurry. You know, I wonder though, you know, I want a reflection since that time. How have you grown in business, as a businesswoman, in the industry of music?
Funny enough, we've had a bit of expansion, we've had to diversify, and it's not just for us alone, but the creative industries in general. You've seen a lot of disruptions and technology playing a huge role in the business. So whether it's content is king, always. So you see a lot of people coming out with huge content, whether it's in music or film or theater and the like. So that was 2 years ago. Today you see a Nigerian theater production is going to be on the West End in a couple of weeks. Before, Nigerian artists would either look for the international acts to collaborate with. Now Africa is the next frontier, and you see the artists in the West looking for African acts to collaborate with. India Irie was here a couple of days ago. She's like telling people like Nusa, oh, we got to do stuff together, telling Isaac Geralds we have to work together, singing songs from Tiwa Savage or Simi. So I think this is a time where African artists or Nigerian artists should begin to position themselves globally. Drake's song featuring Wizkid is doing phenomenally well on the Billboard charts. It's been #1 on the UK charts for weeks, longest running ever. There's a Nigerian in there. So
even if it's just for a few seconds.
Oh yeah.
You know, because people say that song after a week didn't say more than a couple of, you know, not a
I tell you what happens in the studio. You're writing a song. Even if I put the comma in the song and it blows,
it's still your comma.
It's my comma, I still get checks.
Whoa.
So as a writer or a co-writer, I still get checks. So a lot of artists should take that into consideration. A lot of creative people should take that into consideration because you're a part of the creative process.
They shouldn't go around wanting to be the main star or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, there are talks of Beyonce writing just, you know, maybe 2 or 3 words in a song, but she sings it, it's a hit. She still gets her residuals, so.
That's what's important. Yeah. But I also do know, though, have we quite gotten there? Putting a production like what you just did together, for example, is this market, even though we are being recognized, are we still doing things right? Or, put differently, what are the things we're still doing wrong?
I think it's a matter of, there are a lot of opportunities. One thing I've always said is that if the right structure and systems are put in place, you would begin to see the industry thrive. So do we have great talent? Absolutely, that's ticked. But do we have a great distribution channel, whether it's for film or for music or for art? Not quite, because most people look at the glam side. I want to be like Auntie Adesua. There's nothing wrong with that. But who are the people behind Auntie Adesua that make the wheels churn for you to appreciate, you know, what you do? So we all can be artists, we all can be movie stars, we all can be producers, directors.
You're still saying the same thing.
Exactly. So you have to make sure that the ecosystem around all these things are working. So for example, we're talking backstage and you said you have all these events. What will make it profitable? if we had a good touring system where you're not just doing a show in Lagos and those that are in Kaduna or Plateau or Uyo cannot benefit from this, it's a huge problem. With the way the economy is now, you should be catering your product or your service to the mass market. So if I get 100 naira out of 1,000 people, it's better than 1,000 out of maybe 10 people.
So what's happening now is you're trying to get 1,000 from a lot of people. I mean, take for example, tickets, an average ticket to a show in Lagos is like 25K.
Yep.
10K for the popular side. How many people can afford that? Why is it so expensive?
Before you finish paying for the artists, the set design, the venue, putting them in hotels, you realize that your budget, 80% of your budget goes into all these things. So you have to make that money back.
So how can we encourage people to go into this kind of businesses? What will make it work?
We need more venues.
Not tents.
Not tents. I mean, there's nothing wrong with you putting a tent together, but ensure that the safety of the people is paramount. It can contain as many people as you want, who can afford what you're giving, and you're using the right equipment, you have the right talent to, attract people to be there.
Now, why aren't you guys investing in it?
That's the question.
I say, you guys, you've been in this industry for this time.
Yeah, but under this one, guess what? Every year, we put up an event. We're putting in our blood, sweat, and tears and barely breaking even. Because every other thing is taking, a chunk of the cash. So by year 2, you put in all your money, there are no profits.
So it's a slow process.
It's a slow process.
So we need big investors. What would attract big investors into this? I want to round up with that. First of all, we have the talent. Do we have people who can pay the money?
We have the population. And that's what we're saying. Not everyone can pay 25K, but most people can pay the 500s. It's the reason why, one management.
How do we get to the 500s?
It's strategy. Everybody wants to see a Wizkid or who's out there, a Tiwa or an Isaac Giles or somebody, but they cannot afford the 25. So I will take them to a stadium that I can fill 10,000 seats at $500 or $1,000. But I need to have access to this stadium or to this venue. So the more venues we have with good capacity that can take all of these people, and we have a great network system that can make all of these things work. We have great security, great transportation network, all of that. It's easy.
So where do you see the music industry? Well, we are now doing collabos. Our stars are going far, another 2 years. Maybe when I call you again for a recap.
Yay. Distribution.
Yeah, that's one.
You need to get into the hands of people. And you need to have hubs in major cities, major towns. And that's also a way of creating employment. So if we begin to see the big picture and not think that, okay, this entertainment thing doesn't exactly work, or I need to just pay for an artist, look at the business side of it. Let's talk about it later.
Thank you very much, Emen. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Maybe you'll fill stadiums very soon.
Amen. Amen.
And thank you for watching. That has been Seriously Speaking for today. We'll see you again. Bye. Thank you.